Good morning, everyone. You're back with me, Richard. You were with me a couple of minutes ago for the rally. Now you are with me for the iRacing. This is the Motorsport South Africa Cup M2 CS one make heat race. We are going to be showcasing easily some of the fastest racing in Africa, as we have two competitors who are actually representative of their country in the motorsport games for Nigeria and Botswana. So I expect to see some absolute stonkers coming through. You're joined by Tapelo. He is going to be my co-caster today. I am extremely excited as I went and did my research, and I am in the presence of some fame here, and I am chuffed to bits to be joined. Please, man, welcome to you. Thank you for joining me in the commentary box today. I'm excited as all hell to actually bring you this today. Tapelo, thank you, man. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really hope your research isn't as good as I think it is, because I might have some secrets hiding in there. But it's good to be here, and I hope we're going to have some fun.
I found no dark web secrets. I found only good things. So I'm really excited. As you can see, folks, we are here in iRacing. We're going to be showing you a awesome little voiceover commentary for the circuit. But we are here at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, one of my favorite circuits in iRacing, hands down, and an absolute joy to drive in the BMW M2 CS Racing. We have myself and Black Ribbon Simulations as the owner of Black Ribbon. We have a really exciting relationship with BMW that you're going to start seeing a little bit more of. Keep an eye on our socials, keep an eye on Motorsport South Africa socials. That's all I'm going to say for now, but there's some exciting stuff coming. So the reason we're racing the BMWs today, it's not just for Coinky Dink. There's a reason we're racing these today. Other than that, though, we have a field fully stocked of guys, and I would like to talk a little bit more about the circuit, but I know we've got a video coming up. What I'd like to talk about first is Motorsport South Africa and what they're doing in sim racing at the moment. Because Africa Festival is a showcase of absolutely everything going on under Motorsport South Africa banner, run by its Sim Racing Association. These are the communities who have stepped up, the organizations who have stepped up and have said, we want to grow the sport. We will do things properly, by the book, by MSA's book, and make sure that everyone is licensed, we do everything properly. And hey, maybe in a year or two's time, once everyone's continued like we were supposed to and everyone's getting it right, we can start awarding Springbok Blazers. I mean, Tapelo, could you imagine, right, gaming when I was a teenager in high school, and I want to show my age here, in the early 2000s, unheard of. I would have laughed at you if you had said you could get a Springbok Blazer in gaming. Now, we look like we could potentially get one for sim racing in the near future. So that's awesome.
Listen, my friend, I still have to explain what I'm doing with a mic and a laptop in a dark room, so I fully get it, right? But it's so great to have this development, especially for the African continent. You know, you don't realize how passionate Africans, South Africans, everyone is about sim racing until you talk to the guys that are deep within the sport.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you look at the amount of attention this has gotten. And I mean, I'm not here to talk about just myself. I'm here to talk about this whole event as well. A little bit later on, we're going to go through the schedule. But one of the communities we've got coming up, I mean, these guys have got about 50 people who signed up. As you can see, schedule on screen now. The rally is grayed out as we've just come out of that, doing Kenya and Estonia. We're now going to be going live soon, should I say, with the BMW race in iRacing. But as you can see, coming up at 2 o'clock and 3:45, you've got the two ACC races. That's Assetto Corsa Competizione. I like to call it the everyman sim racing game because, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost everyone you know who sim races owns this game. It is quite literally everyone owns it.
No, for sure. And it's really funny because I think I've had like 1 or 2 sessions on the game, but everyone raves about how good the game is and just how accessible it is. So, hey, let's keep it going.
No, absolutely. And I mean, speaking about accessibility, it's one of those games that when it goes on sale, it's cheap as chips. Let me tell you that for free. And in terms of realism, wow. I mean, really, it is quite something. I would say comparable to iRacing in many respects, but obviously it focuses exclusively on GT3, GT4 racing. It's unlike iRacing where you can go and drive absolutely the craziest cars. That focuses on a very specific class type of racing. And yeah, so let's move on to the prizes for a minute because I don't want to waste too much time. Guys, in the stream, bring your friends, bring your family, bring your dog. If it has a YouTube channel like my bloody sister does for her cat, bring them into the channel. Let's get some people watching sim racing because there is a prize provided by Sparko Gaming South Africa and my business, Sparko Gaming, a 1,500 Rand voucher in terms of anything you want from the Sparko Gaming catalog. That is quite an extensive catalog: gloves, racing socks, racing boots, the works. This is available to the viewing members of the stream. What you guys need to do is navigate to the link in the description, fill out a basic form, but you are going to need to also share the stream that you're watching out to your social media, tag Motorsport South Africa, tag MS Technic Sparko Gaming, and please use the hashtag Africa Festival. Okay, guys, that is going to be a qualifying factor. If you don't do it, I can't give you the prize. It's just as simple as that. That is, like I said, for the streaming, for the viewing public, and it will be available all day. So if you're going to be tuning in later on for the ACC thing, and you have friends joining them, send them to the link. It's available through the whole day. Awesome stuff, guys. We're going to be heading on to the video now that we've got for Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. Sit back, enjoy, and it will take you through this awesome circuit.
Welcome to Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. About 2 hours west of Berlin, it hailed in a more modern era of racetracks for the country when it opened in 1997. But perhaps one of the most surprising statistics about this place is it's only the 4th permanent racing facility to open in Germany. With 4 layouts to choose from, ranging between 1 and 3.5 kilometers, it's very well suited to touring cars, GT cars, and lower-level open-wheelers. Hotel and Turn 7 are 2 notable corners due to the fact that they each offer more than 180 degrees of rotation. However, Hotel is the more famous for its tighter, slower version, causing all kinds of headaches on race starts when drivers inevitably slow to a crawl trying to navigate it. The chicane doesn't do much to slow cars down, but it does create a very tricky entry into the long right-hander of 10. Also, Triple does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a 3-apex turn on your way into 7, so precision will be key. The front stretch and back stretch are nice long straights to get the car going, but both create dilemmas with difficult corners for overtaking at the end of them. It's a lot of tightly packed, technical and twisty circuit shoved into a small footprint. But much like the layout, this venue offers a lot for a little with its great racing.
And we are back after that fantastic little run through of, like I said, easily one of my favorite circuits. Super tricky, as you heard. 3.6 kilometer circuit, number of very technical circuits. Triple obviously being one of the very technical ones for the kind of cars the guys are driving at the moment. McDonald's, that little chicane through there, like you said, doesn't do much to slow the cars down until suddenly you're on the other end of it. This is going to be a very tricky circuit, and it's going to be a very entertaining circuit as overtaking opportunities are numerous. So very, very excited, and very fitting circuit for Germany, just down the road from Berlin. I'm really excited. Pillow, this is where things get a little bit fun, because we're going to now run through how the race details are going to work. We're not doing a timed race here, ladies and gentlemen, with a clock. We're using laps for this one. We're heat racing today. We're going to be using 3 heats to determine who goes through to a final feature of 25 laps. There is also a consolidation race for those who don't make it. They're essentially called it a last minute qualifying. The winners of those, the top guys from those, I believe it is 6 drivers, will then also move on to the feature race of 25 laps. And Pillow, if I have to be really honest with you, I use this car a lot in iRacing. I really enjoy it, so I'm driving it a lot. And I believe I have lost my co-caster for a minute. I think he'll be back in a minute. But let me carry on with that train of thought. This is a car that very well may need a pit stop for fuel in that 25 laps. It's very possible that unless these guys are masterclass at managing their fuel in tires, I'm going to go ahead and say, ladies and gentlemen, that it's very likely we're going to see a necessity pit stop. I have not set this up in any way so that there is a required pit stop. So if you can take the car to the finish, you will definitely see some interesting pit stops happening. As you can see, currently in qualifying at the moment, we've got a number of drivers out setting their times. Tristan de Nobrega setting the fastest time. Followed by the man from Nigeria, the representative from the Motorsport Games. Kamto, he is an absolute killer. He is one of the guys in the Prodigy series as well, driving this BMW super competitively. He is what I would call a professional sim racer, folks. This guy does it day in, day out. He gets paid to do this, so he's coming through here definitely looking to do some damage to these South Africans. And guys, like I said, we've got a really decent grid. We have even got a gentleman in the grid who was a part of the beta testing for iRacing, so we could also very well see him feature quite highly today. And Barry Kemp, he is definitely going to showcase. Also, guys, as you can see, a number of the cars are custom liveried. This is thanks to trading paints in iRacing that we get to see. Obviously, not this BMW currently on screen, but a number of the BMWs that belong to the guys who belong to teams. They will have custom liveries. So look out for sponsors like Switch Energy Drinks, Prodigy, all kinds of different things that are going to be driving around the track today. Obviously, some plain white cars from some of the guys who have just gotten started, not too sure how to livery their cars just of yet. But hey, just because they're new to iRacing doesn't necessarily mean they're new to sim racing. These are guys who are probably going to be quite quick, who have been practicing with the car and are getting on top of it. So you can expect some potential updates, or upsets rather, should I say. Currently, at the moment, with the qualifying time, with only, I believe, 40 seconds to go by the looks of things on the clock, it does look like it's going to be the gentleman from Nigeria who steals it away unless Tristan is able to bring it through. Tristan, I must give a hats off, a huge help to him and RDSA for their technical assistance in helping me understand iRacing as a host. They had very little to do with these, nothing to do with the setting up of what the race is, but technically I would not have gotten to where I am without RDSA, so a huge tip of the hat to them. And obviously, Oak, some of the ladies and gentlemen, the other sponsors that we want to talk about potentially today is the prize that our drivers have on offer. Skyworth South Africa, the manufacturers of those awesome TVs, have provided a soundbar, one of their soundbars to the winner of today's event. That is free of charge. Shipping just needs to be sorted out, basically, and that is it. I own one personally. It's phenomenal. My name is... All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be moving on over to the grid because the race needs to move forward, despite what I would have to say. Currently on row 1 for the first race, we have Rikus Hutting, Janeman Price. Row 2, Yaku van der Lith, Essie Essehace, Luke Lucchesi, the man from Nigeria himself, scoring the top spot during the first qualifying. There is a way that iRacing is qualifying them and setting them up. It is all done in-game. We have nothing to do with it. Yakis Eva, Ulafwemi, Stephen Koenig, and Noah Hendricks coming through for our first race. So this is the first heat, ladies and gentlemen, of 10 laps, and that's me. I entered the session at one point to check out everyone, and it registered me, so apologies about that. I am obviously not participating in this race. I am joining you from the commentary box. In the meantime, folks, I'd like to welcome back my co-caster, Tapelo. He has internet gremlins have been abated, hopefully, as we move on over to the grid. We're walking down the line with this car. Student driver, I love that livery. Nothing yet from Tapelo, maybe sorting out a microphone issue, so I'll carry on. Obviously, the car passing from the right, that's quite a cool one. I've seen that on Trading Paints. BMW with a rich history of art cars. You see a number of those finding their way onto Trading Paints for BMW liveries. As the guys set off, this is obviously going to be a parade lap. We did that specifically because Oschersleben can be a bit tricky sometimes with this first corner on a standing start, especially with those very cold tires. It's a very tricky corner. This very sudden left to a very sudden right is let's just say things get a little bit hairy sometimes. So we've allowed the drivers to stack up and have a rolling start. That way they're allowed to heat these tires up a little bit in this rolling start, and we get an awesome shot of them running around the circuit. As you can see, not too much sunshine out there, a little bit of a partly cloudy day. We have set it to be a little bit more temperate, as this BMW, she does like to cook her tires a little bit. She does like to have a little bit of a party when things get hot. And with the length of the final race, we don't want to see drivers falling off because of conditions. We would rather have these guys knife fighting out there, personally. In the meantime, I'll quite happily wait for Tapelo to give me a heads up. I see his microphone's come back off mute. Tapelo, you there, bud?
Yes, I think I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay, good stuff. So we're busy with this rolling start here. Like I said, it's a 3.6 kilometer circuit, as you also heard in the video. We are going to have a little bit of a wait as they roll around. So I'd like to get your impressions so far on what do you think of the BM? I'd like to get your genuine impressions, because this thing is very, very close to what would be a road car in terms of it's a production car. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like a GT3, which is this big, scary, stonking racing car.
Yeah, so I'm gonna flex a little as a guy who has a friend who owns an M2. I'm very familiar with the platform, so I kind of know what it's about. Exceptional cars, the handling is superb, but I love the revisions done to the CS version just to get it closer to the track car. You know, you just need to be so aware. Very short wheelbase on these cars, so they will snap if you really push it. So you just need to be aware on corner entry and your power delivery. Get that smooth, and this car will reward that style of driving.
I'm so glad you said that, because on the note of that, these drivers are all using a fixed setup. Not one of these drivers is able to tune their car at all, whatsoever. Brake balance, nothing. Even tire pressures are locked in at what we have told them they can use. So, like you said, the shorter wheelbase of this car is going to prove who can master it versus who is just good at setting up a car. We've removed that ability for the guys to have that, so let's see what happens, because this is now a straight knife fight amongst a very tight field of cars and an almost an identical car. There goes the safety car dropping off. This is the final corner coming up, known as Zeppelin Curve. We are going to see the green lights drop shortly as they line up in their 11s, a little bit out of stack, but that's okay, guys, looking for every opportunity that they can get, and we are racing, guys. This is green lights and away. Already, guys, going 3 wide before this tricky corner. Let's see what happens here. We've got a very talented field, so I don't see anything happening, but holding the breath. First corner, it looks like everyone's through. It does look like that's Essie diving a little bit. Jan Price getting collected a little bit there. Someone else getting collected, not 100% sure who that white livery is. Jan Price, one of our faster drivers, getting collected in corner 1 there. Hotel not being his friend. Currently on screen, Jaco van der Lith also being collected in corner 1. Not what you want to see, but it is an extremely tricky corner, Tapelo. I think I may have lost my co-caster again, ladies and gentlemen. The gremlins with the load shedding, it always comes up with us, unfortunately. It's like they monitor us with sim racing. We are racing, though, lap 1 of this 10-lap race. Here we go with Luke Lucchesi executing a little bit of a cutback here, making it stick. He's going to have the run down to this next section here through the chicane. Like I said, not much slower, as you can see, full commitment, and then onto the brakes. Someone running wide there. I'm not 100% sure, unfortunately. Gotta forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not too familiar with these drivers' livery, so it does take me a minute to figure out who it is disappearing into the nether realm. But we are on board right now with Olufemi. He is one of our faster drivers who's signed up, but currently seeing himself a little down, currently at the moment being chased down by his fellow countrymen in the very awesome Prodigy liveried BMW M2. On board right now, having a look through the wing, you get to have a sense of just how much track these guys are using, and also how close they're getting to each other at some points, driving it right onto the limit there of that green runoff section. That is it. Second hit that sand, it's going to start turning you around with these BMWs. And an awesome shot coming down this very long straight, and now climbing onto the anchors for this first corner. Big commitment to the apex, another big commitment to that apex. You've really got to commit to these apexes, as they can really be hit quite hard in these BMWs if you have the rhythm. This is a car that really requires a lot of rhythm, rear-wheel drive, very, very snappy, as we said earlier, can really suddenly turn on you, and also doesn't like being played around with the gears. It likes to sit and drive and rev high. It's a very, very fun car to drive. If you are looking to get involved, ladies and gentlemen, the Motorsport South Africa esports license, the annual license, comes with a 1-year membership to iRacing if you're a new member, and it comes with a free car, the FIA F4. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that without a license, but I just did. Sorry about that. But it does come with that F4. That is a paid-for car in the game. It comes as a free car. So I encourage you, if this is interesting, if you like what you see on the screen, I encourage you, go to Motorsport South Africa, get your Motorsport esports license, and get on track with us. A little bit of a replay now for corner 1. Jan Price has a fantastic entry into the first section, but just gets an ever so slight tap there and gets turned around. And then, unfortunately, he collects Jaco. That is on the deepest and unfortunate incidents, but it does showcase just how quickly these cars will get out of sorts with you. And unfortunately, they're quite delicate. So I'm hoping these drivers haven't picked up any damage. No one's climbed into the pits yet, so I don't see any meatball flags being thrown out. Fastest lap so far for Luke Lucchesi, coming through and stealing it from Enriquez as he sets a 1:34.384. Again, having driven this car quite extensively, that's fast. I personally am about 3 seconds off that. That's fast. Wow. Really, really, really flying at the moment. Rikus Hudson currently in first place. Luke Lucchesi half a second off of him. The two Nigerians absolutely chasing them down. Neil Hendricks following him. Stephen Koenig right behind him at this point as well. We still have quite a close field, but unfortunately, Jan Price is he's a little bit off at the moment, having been collected so early on, and he really got turned around. So I think it took him a minute, unfortunately, to get going. Currently, we're riding along with Neil Hendricks. Really, really awesome view as you get to see down the bonnet. I just want to check in with my co-caster. It looks like he may be back. Hello. You there, bud? Oh, geez, the gremlins today. I don't know what's going on. Right, coming through here into this chicane. This is a tricky section because coming through here, it's actually a little bit off camber. You can't really tell from this camera angle, but there's a slight little off camber dip to that corner that makes it quite difficult. Boy, absolutely on top of each other coming through this section. Very, very tricky section. Very difficult to keep the momentum. Both drivers doing a phenomenal job coming through here. Absolutely, absolutely phenomenal drivers. The next series of curves, they're entering Shell Curve coming through here. Oh no, apologies, this is Zeppelin Curve. Apologies, getting myself a bit lost here on a circuit I claim to love, so apologies about that. But again, a very close race forming up at the front. They're pulling a little bit of a gap from third and fourth, so we may be seeing a bit of a two-horse race currently forming up as these drivers head into lap 4. Very, very, very interesting section, as you can see, how suddenly you have to bring the car down. You're at these really awkward revs. You've got to really get the momentum going through here, ride the curb as much as you can, and then come to a hard break for this next hairpin. But it's very late apex hairpin, so your entry is critical for this particular corner here. And as they head off to triples, we snap back to the next set of drivers. This looks like it is Steven Koenig being chased by Essie Esterhuis, two drivers that are not rookies to iRacing. These are two gentlemen that are absolute seasoned veterans in it. They are also going to probably end up with a bit of a knife fight between the two of them as this turns into a proper race for 7th place. Currently back on board with Essie, still chasing around. Not sure if the people at home can see as well, but we're on board with his webcam as well, with him racing at home. But his livery is top marks to someone in the stream if they can name the racing car that livery actually features in real life. Not a BMW, I will give you that, but it is a livery that one features in the real world of racing. So top marks to someone in the chat if they can figure that out. Right now, as we're heading back into this race, we're still on lap 4, currently on board with SES. This is a gent who is proper sending it. He's managed to get past Steven Koenig and has opened up a little bit of a gap for himself. He's approaching the 1 second mark, shy of Steven Koenig. But Steven now has a little bit of problems because Ava is right on his tail, followed by Van der Linde. They are chasing him down. So I'm worried that the man himself... FYI, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the Sim Racing Association, I would like to say a huge shout out to Steven Koenig, as this is our chairman and the man who has made this all possible, the man who essentially has driven this whole thing and dragged all of us kicking and screaming to this morning so we can bring you this racing. This is also a very good friend of mine. We've karted together for many years. So this is my personal little rooting, so I'm rooting for Steve here, but he's going to have a little bit of problems as he's being hunted down by another two drivers currently, and it does look like Essie's starting to get away from him a little bit, opening up that gap to 1.2 seconds. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you all that this stream has a prize. So if you have just joined us and you haven't quite heard the announcement in the beginning, there is a link in the top of the stream that I welcome you to navigate to. It is a simple questionnaire. No data will be collected unless you sign up to Motorsport South Africa's Yes, I'd Like More Information, please. And one of the things that we're doing is we are giving away a 1,500 Rand Sparko Gaming voucher on behalf of Sparko Gaming South Africa and Black Ribbon Simulations. This is available to anything that's in the Sparko Gaming catalog, from any of the things. Oh, Steven Koenig getting a big turnaround there. That's not what you want to see on a move, but unfortunately that leaves Steven Koenig completely islanded there as he has to wait for the drivers to come past so he can re-enter safely. Choosing to take the reverse rather than turning himself around on the circuit. I have to applaud, ladies and gentlemen. That is a very, very sacrificial safe return, but a very, very safe return seen there from Mr. Koenig. So, back up to Noah Hendricks, currently running in 5th place. He is currently chasing down Mfwemi. He is really looking for that 4th place spot, chasing the man down. One of our later entries, but also not a rookie, should I say, to iRacing, and back Jan Price running in 8th place. He's managed to get himself past Steven Koenig. Also, you see running with his webcam there. This is the awesome thing about iRacing, guys, and a big shout out to Genisus for providing us this incredible broadcast that you guys are seeing, allowing us to tap into these guys' streams, allowing everyone to see the visuals that we're providing. Or being provided, sorry. But that's it, guys. A combined effort of absolutely everything that's happening in Sim Racing South Africa at the moment, all under the umbrella of Motorsport South Africa's Sim Racing program, being run by the Sim Racing Association. On board Luke Lucchesi in the BMW art car, running in first position. He has opened up a little bit of a gap now, ladies and gentlemen. 2.7 seconds. He is definitely on it for this race. I think, unless, I don't want to say it, but yeah, commentator's curse, I don't want to say it. So I'm just going to politely transition over to his car and comment on what an awesome livery it is. Very, very striking. Using the battleship tactics, maybe he can't be seen, you know, break up the pattern. But we are seeing Luke absolutely fly with this one. So I am holding thumbs for this man to keep it together. Back down to fifth, Noah Hendricks still chasing down Olfwemi. This man is definitely in defensive mode at the moment, making that BMW as big as he can. It's definitely a tricky one because, like I said, this is a circuit that is rich with overtaking opportunities, especially in a car like this, where the track welcomes a little bit of creativity sometimes to get past someone. As you can see, he's putting his nose in there, just letting the man from Nigeria know that he's there, just making sure that he doesn't forget that this gap is really small, really, really small at this point. It's you know, Noah could pounce if he finds the opportunity, and with 3 laps to go, the opportunity could very well present itself. It's still in it for all of our drivers. There is still a lot to race for. Currently, at the moment, folks, I will lead you through our field. First position, we have Lucchesi. Second position, and I apologize here, I'm not great with surnames sometimes. Chukwera, then Hutting, Olowe, Hendricks, Esterhuis, Vanderlyn, Price, Ava, and Kendrick. They are our field for this first heat in the Motorsport South Africa Festival one-make race, the BMW M2 CS Racing. A really, really fun car, and like I said earlier, if you want to get involved, if what you're seeing here is of interest to you, please get in touch with Motorsport South Africa, get your esports license, get involved, and come and race with us. We're going to be doing a lot of iRacing in the future. iRacing really, really underrepresented in this country. We want to change that. We at Black Ruben want to change that. Motorsport South Africa wants to change that. It is definitely something that we're looking forward to bringing more to the racing public. Oi! Hendricks collecting a little bit of sand coming out there. That's not going to help him coming down this very long straight. It's not... You can see there it's definitely hurt his position. He's dropped a good 4/10 back after that, and that's allowed our man from Nigeria a little bit of room to breathe. Femi can take it easy at the moment. He can maybe adjust the driving to focus a little bit more on now, you know, getting away from him rather than just defending him. And as you can see, I mean, these cars are still capable in that short little section there. The car is still doing 160 before you're braking. So these cars can move, folks. These camera angles may be a bit deceiving as to the real pace of these cars, but these cars can really move. Again, up to 171 before he taps off for the triples, but still running at apex speed of about 140 k's an hour before he has to really commit to the opening section of McDonald's. The McDonald's section here, it's this early section, the very fast chicane that comes up, and then, like I said, as you exit this last part, you've got to get on the anchors a little bit to make yourself carry around this corner. And as you can see how the corner then dips away, like I said, slightly off-camber section that, so it's a tough one to navigate, especially if you've got someone really nipping at your heels. Still on board with Olafemi, he is our man watching at the moment, 4th position. He has managed to buy himself a little breathing room from Noah Hendricks behind him, but Noah Hendricks, like I said, no slouch in this racing scene. He is still going to be chasing things up. Rickers Hutting all the way up in 3rd position, having a little bit of a lonely island race as he's got some space in front of him, he's got some space behind him. He can breathe. He just needs to bring it home with 1 lap to go, 2 laps to go. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, 2 laps to go at this point in time as we start this lap. Right. This phenomenal circuit, though, as you can see, the sun poking out a little bit from behind the clouds. It's going to be warming up the circuit a little bit. So by this point, these drivers are maybe going to start feeling it. They'll be pushing, but the tires in these cars themselves, they don't have so much of a fall-off. But like I mentioned earlier, when we come to the longer final race, that feature, I expect to see something different. When we get to about lap 15, you're going to start to see the tire degradation starting to play a factor. You're going to start to see a little bit of fall off of lap times, maybe some driving styles having to adjust. She becomes very snappy, even more so when the tires start to fall off a little bit. So keep that in mind for when we do get to our feature race. As we get Luke Lucchesi coming through this very fast chicane, back on it. Coming through here. Sorry, folks, I just having a quick sip of water so that I can maintain my speech. And apologies if you can hear my 1-year-old in the background. I am doing this from home, and I'm a father of 2, so that's always a fun factor. On board with the man, though, who now has a 3.2 second lead, hitting a little bit of that grass on that section there. Not what you want, but he's set himself up very, very, very nicely for the next section. Coming through here for the final Zeppelin curve. Bauer curve is one of those corners that you got to be quite careful with, because you need to be slow enough to maintain that it's quite a tight section, but it is a very fast corner, so it's something you need to be very, very careful of. That white flag waving there, folks, in the indicator to the drivers that their last lap has begun. In their BMWs, there'll be some lights that will indicate that last lap, white light that'll be flashing at them. So these guys are becoming very aware that Luke has now started the last lap, but all of our drivers are still on the lead lap, so no one has been lapped at this point in time. Everyone remains on the lead lap. And that means that everyone is going to finish at least with all 10 laps completed, which is what we want to see. That is also a tremendous showcasing of the skills that we've got, considering the speed at which Luke has tackled this race, the utter pace that he has shown. As you can see here, running on board with him through the triple, now he's approaching the early section of McDonald's. As you can see, folks, very technical circuit. You come out of that very long, awkward triple left-hander into a very sudden right-hander, and you've got to still maintain the revs. As you can see here, really cutting those apexes, really attacking the apex there. Be mindful, there are some sausage curves, so you've got to be careful of those on the circuit. There are a number of quite large sausage curves you've got to be careful for, and absolutely sending it down the back straight here, 200 k's an hour before he gets off the throttle, letting it roll in through the right-hander there, through shell curve, almond curve next, and now approaching Zeppelin. This has definitely been a commanding victory from our man Luke Lucchesi. Absolute flyer of a finish. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the first heat. We will be rolling over to our second heat shortly. I will go through the grid as the guys all finish. As you can see, Luke doing a celebratory weave with his lights there. That would have not been the moment to have the car snap on you, but masterful drive there from Mr. Lucchesi, the Cape Townian. Very, very well driven. And everyone else slowly starting to filter through. But folks, you can see how close they all finished to each other. The fact that we've snapped to each of the little packs as they've come through, and it was a very, very tight race. As you see here, Ava and Koenig coming through for the final section. They obviously had a little bit of a tougher race, Koenig being collected a little bit earlier on, and I think Ava then either dropping back or having issues himself, but here are our last finishers, Mr. Stephen Kendrick bringing back the race. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, that was Heat 1. We're going to be moving over. I'm going to quickly do a check-in with my co-caster. Tapello,
Yes.
the gremlins abated. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I think we're doing well. I enjoyed that race. I had visuals, but not really great with sound, but it was interesting. Very good circuit, and I think these drivers handled it well. We spoke about the short wheelbase and how difficult it would be, but they just said, nah, we've got this. We'll show you how to drive this car.
Yeah. I lamented earlier at, oh man, I would have loved to have driven in this, but having just watched what I watched, I'm now quite happy in the commentary box. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, because wow, that was quite a race. That was a lot of lap times that were quite up there. Right, ladies and gentlemen, starting off with our second heat. Starting off on the front row, Barry Kemp, the beta tester from the early days, Etienne Swart. Nico Kellerman bringing up the second row with Werner Swart. Adrian Nell, Tristan Norbreger bringing up row 3. Cameron de Bestos, another one of the Team Heap Together drivers. He is starting on the fourth row with Christopher Stamens, Jakub Krobler, and Gabriel Melmed. This is our second heat, ladies and gentlemen, that we are starting off, and then Werner Opperman on the very, very final row there. He is bringing up the rear. Again, that does not indicate he qualified in last. It is how the iRacing heat-based system has set these drivers up. As you can see them rolling off behind the Porsche safety car. We wanted to mix things up. Having a BMW safety car in the front could have just been a little bit, too obvious driving it home, so we chose this very, very awesome Porsche. Again, I've always queried the iRacing safety car, because it's sim racing. Why need a safety car? But the way it got explained to me is awesome, in that it's actually just purely an immersion tool. You don't need it, but hey, why not use it if the crash is big enough? Why not use it? You know what I mean? And I like the idea of that personally.
No, for sure. Look, I think it's one thing we always need to take into context, that the whole aim of sim racing is to get as close as possible to on-track action without actually being on track. So if you can get any kind of immersion tool, a safety car, a flag system, vibrations in your steering wheel controls, everything that just makes it that much closer is all the worth it. And I'm actually a fan of the safety cars. It just gives you that extra element of thinking about as you're racing.
Absolutely. I mean, I've only been involved in iRacing for about 2 years now, and frankly, I have not gotten my money's worth. I will be the first person to say that as we ride on board with Cameron de Bastos for this pace lap. One of the things, though, that I came very in tune with iRacing very quickly, and what made me fall in love with the game to the point where really it's all I play other than WRC with my rally thing. iRacing is one of those, man, if you want that sense of realism of just how hardcore motorsport can be, this is a fantastic title to sink your teeth into, because yes, folks, I'm not going to lie to you, it can be an expensive game to sink your teeth into, but incredibly rewarding, unbelievably rewarding. If you are a motorsport enthusiast with an interest in racing and competing against your fellow South Africans, I actually don't think you can find a better platform, because it is a variety. We could be open racing F1600 open wheelers. We could even be doing some dirt oval racing. Sky's the limit when it comes to this, and the realism is unreal. So like you said, the immersion and the closer to the realism that we can get, it's fantastic. And everyone who knows the game has basically told me, it's awesome when it comes out. It's kind of cool kind of thing. So I'm like, cool. I got to organize an endurance race just so that I can experience it more than anything else. So there's another little teaser, folks. Keep an eye on the things in the near future. We are going to be looking at doing an endurance race coming up in iRacing, multi-class. Keep an eye open for what the details will be on Motorsport South Africa's socials. All right. Guys, we are coming up now to the final section. As you can see, the safety car beginning to peel off there. This is Zeppelin Curve. Very, very tricky little right-hander. Very fast corner, though, if you can get it right, as they will stack up here for the start-finish straight. Pello, we're about to be green lights. You ready?
Yeah, look, I'm ready, and I hope these drivers are, because we've already seen how big of a pinch point turn one can be on the circuit.
Absolutely, as they're already, look at this. This is looking like a 3-wide, almost on the second row there. People cutting in, hopefully a little bit cleaner. That Sparko car has been collected in a big way. 2 cars collected in a big way. I suspect we're going to be hearing some stewarding complaints, but I'm hoping these drivers are behaving themselves in what we saw was just a motorsport, just a racing incident, basically. But you never want to see that happen as we're following along with Tristan de Nobrega, now on board with Warren. Right, guys, so we are now live with the second heat of our BMW M2 CS, or M2 Racing CS. This is a phenomenal car. Tell me, Pello, predictions? I mean, do you see anything coming here? We had a bit of a stacking of a grid, and everyone kind of slotted into a position. Do you think the same thing's going to happen here?
Look, I think I internally cursed someone, as commentators do, because I saw a Senna livery and I was like, oh, this is going to be my car, and then they got picked up at turn 1 and now they're in the back. So I'm not going to choose a favorite. I'm just going to commentate on what I'm seeing, because unfortunately as a commentator we cause havoc when we speak about a particular car.
Look at this, though. Guys getting within a hair's breadth. That is deeply unfortunate. Guys, unfortunately, in the white-hot moment of it, it does just look like things got very, very tight with the drivers there. Very, very respectful amounts of rejoin, guys giving each other space. A little bit of a rubbing, but that's as long as you don't get turned around, we can accept that as a safe rejoin. Currently riding on board with Werner Swart. This is one of a brother pair that are racing today. I stand to be corrected, but I think Werner is the more veteran of the two. His brother is a little bit newer to the game, but not a just like earlier, maybe rookie to iRacing, but definitely not a rookie to sim racing in itself. So expecting some really, really good racing. And I'm personally, I don't really mind who wins. I just want a knife fight. Personally, I like to watch a motorsport when they're absolutely going toe to heel at each other. On board right now with Cameron de Bastos as he's putting his nose on the inside here, absolutely holding it. Sneemon's not being able to make it stick. That's what you want to see.
Oh, that's a beautiful move. That shows just a pure understanding of the car and the dynamics and how to exploit the performance advantages that you can create in that car. Going for that inside line is always very tricky because you're always so worried what the car on the outside is going to do. So if you can hold your line, you get that kind of move done.
Absolutely. And that was one of those, like you said, just the understanding of the car, knowing that limit of grip is going to be there. send it. As Daniel Ricciardo says, lick that stamp and send it. Easily one of my favorite of his sayings, so I tend to, you're going to hear it today, folks. I can promise you that now for sure. As we're riding along, it looks like someone might be making a move. Huge defensive action all the way to the inside, but driving past. Not sure if he let him go there or if it was. Those two cars, though, do look frighteningly similar. Maybe these two are driving together. Maybe that was just letting a friend or teammate through, knowing he's got the pace. Rather not fight the guy, let him just, you know, crack on with it, go hunt someone else down. Currently on board with Mr. Swart. Folks, this is a very long straight to Pello, I have to tell you. And it goes on and goes on. Fastest lap there, Adrian Nell absolutely caning it in first place. But as you can see, suddenly this very tricky corner arrives on you. But one of the things I want to point out, though, try spot the brake marker. It's really, really, really difficult to spot. Oh, a little bit of a Tokyo drift there from our man in second position. That was a very, very well held little section. BMW getting very out of sorts there. But as you can see, guys, these guys are still right on top of each other, Pello.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's so interesting is I love watching racing from on board for the driver who's behind, because you always feel like they're just about to touch the driver in front. That concertina effect in the braking zones just gives you that extra edge or makes you skip a heartbeat. But that's just how good these drivers are, that they can follow so closely, not even mirroring, but almost driving identically to each other, just trying to get that advantage and trying to create the space and try and go for the move. This is brilliant. And what you're seeing here as they just go through that McDonald's complex is just how measured they are on the brakes. They're just touching the brakes, trying to get that car to just bite with the front, move that weight balance around. This is brilliant driving from these drivers.
Now, thank you for saying that. The weight balance was something I was just about to point out, because you can see it in full effect between the two lines. The very defensive line from Barry here and the very aggressive, wanting to remind the man that he is here. Do not forget about me. I am only 3/10 behind you. I'm not going anywhere. And he is showing that Mr. Kemp taking an incredibly defensive line, sacrificing a little bit of his speed, but I do think the exit there is going to hurt. I think Mr. Swart is going to potentially have the slip on him here as well, and this could be a very interesting complex. But again, here on board, have a look for this little service road. You got to look out for that and judge your braking. It's a very, very interesting corner. Taking a very aggressive line, Mr. Swart's going to have a great drive out here. Barry again taking a very defensive line, and I don't know if you're seeing it, but Barry, his defensive line is actually taking him onto some marbles that have been brought onto the circuit from our corner one incident from on lap one.
Yeah.
We still have a little bit of marbles on the circuit, which is not helping Barry.
No, definitely not. And you can see just how compromised he was on the exit there, with Swart getting really, really close. And I think, like you said, if they ever happen to make it to a final in a longer race, running on those marbles and running offline, especially when you're trying to defend, is going to kill your race, and you're going to lose tenths of seconds at every corner, and that just makes defending so much harder. But what we're seeing here, and which is what I'm genuinely enjoying from this, is even though we're saying that Kemp is running offline, going on the marbles, but he's doing such a good job at maintaining his pace and momentum through those corners. As we see this replay here, hard on the brakes, and we know these cars will pitch in. Just a bit of Tokyo drift there, as you were talking about, and he's out.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Gabriel Milmed just trying to control that car, but like we said, shorter wheelbase, this car will snap on you.
I must be honest with Pillar, I think he got collected there a little bit. I think the car behind him maybe got a little bit late on the brakes and maybe collected him. And that is the section there coming up through the first shell curve, which is a very, very fast corner. And I think maybe the collection, even as mild, as gentle as it may have been, could have been it. Just as a note, folks, for the people watching at home, we have given the drivers an unlimited amount of quick repairs in iRacing that is simulated to an instant degree rather than it taking 20 minutes. So if you look carefully, you can actually see the driver who collected the wall. He is already on his way out of the pit lane. He will be a lap down, and he is going to now be in the mix of things with some drivers. As you can see there, he's exiting the pits, staying behind that solid white line, making sure he doesn't interfere with our top runners here. Well, that's actually not our top runners. That's one of the later guys. That just shows you how badly that hurt him, how badly that collection has hurt his efforts, because he's now a lap down on almost everybody. He now just needs to focus on his race and just respect the blue flags, if I have to be very honest, because right now we still have an absolute cracker of a race. But at the moment, it looks like Mr. Null has managed to take advantage not only of the battle going on behind him, but Cameron de Bastos has come hunting. I'm hearing the Jaws music to Pello, because have a look at that delta. If you have a look as we ride along board with Nico Kellerman, also trying to chase down 7th, suddenly we have a battle again for 3rd.
Yeah, look, Jaws is it's my favorite racing theme because it works every time. But I think this is what's so crucial about a 10-lap sprint race. You need to get your pacing right in such a race, because if you're too slow, you lose out. If you're too quick, that might not do you favors sometimes. There's just a Goldilocks zone in racing, and we're seeing that perfectly encapsulated by now. 7.7 seconds away from everyone, but we're seeing this battle getting spicy now as we see Tristan Nobrega. And what I'm loving here is these drivers are giving each other so much space in the corners. They're really being respectful, showing a lot of sportsmanship, but they're also pushing each other to the absolute limits of what these cars are capable of.
Absolutely. Barry Kemp looks like, as we see in the little corner screen there, Barry Kemp was a bit of he lost out there. Cameron de Bastos coming in, providing a tremendous amount of pressure as Adrian Nell goes through the section there. And Barry, a little bit of the loser there, dropping all the way down to 4th place. But again, the respect shown in the space given, the amount of effort the drivers are showing each other in making sure this is as clean a race as possible. And that's why I'm hoping, on review of what we've been seeing in both corner ones, you're seeing what is actually kind of a bit of a reputation of the circuit. I encourage you, go have a look at the circuit in real life. It actually even says has a very notorious reputation for first corner incidents because of how tricky its first corner is. So something that's a bit of a factor to consider, but this is a tremendously exciting circuit with this car. So, I had a bit of a juggling act, when I was putting all of this together. Do I choose something really kind of easy for this corner, something like Laguna Seca, where you've got like a 6.5k runoff worth of concrete where the guys can all drive around in, or do you take something a little bit more challenging for these guys? I had a real juggling act, I have to be very honest with you.
So basically what I'm hearing from you, Richard, is your criteria for selecting the circuit is which one are you most likely to lose the car in? Is that correct?
No, not in those words. Which circuit is going to make our drivers sweat the most was really what it came down to. And I have to admit, the choice of car had a tremendous amount of influence on the location chosen. German. It is quite a nice fitting thing. This is actually, obviously, I'm sure you're aware, where the car races extensively. Well, raced before the series was put to bed a little bit. Christopher, a lovely save there. Folks, what you just witnessed was masterful driving. That was almost completely done, and he managed to not only save it, but actually keep the pace going through that section. So phenomenal driving from Christopher down in 5th place, but not losing the momentum, still chasing down Barry Kemp, still everyone hunting everyone at this point.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if I'm Christopher Simmons, I'm looking for a replay of this race and I'm clipping that and I'm putting it on all of my social media accounts just to show, because that was impressive. That really deserves some praise. But going back to the front with Adrian Nell, who is just light years ahead of everyone now, 9.3 seconds ahead. And I'd like to just say to the ladies and gentlemen listening to this podcast, this is insanely difficult to do, because when you don't have any cars around you, it's very easy to, one, lose your concentration, and then you start struggling with pace. So to keep maintaining a strong pace and keep going without mistakes, it is extremely difficult. And Adrian Nell is nailing it so far.
And something to add on to what you just said, Tapello, is have a look at, folks, how many times he's on the edge. You saw as we cut to him, he clipped that little sausage curb, putting the wheel up. He is right on every curb. He is attacking every curb, maximum attack every single corner. So not only has he gotten himself into a comfortable, well, I've got a lead now, I can just hold it down, quickly cutting to a replay here of Jakub Krobler in 9th place. I want to quickly just see what's happening. This is obviously he's now behind the gentleman who was collected earlier and making a move. Little bit of a touchy, not what you want to see. Definitely not what you want to see. Being collected again, bodywork going flying again. Again, these cars are quite delicate. They do drop their bodywork quite quickly, and a bit of a spin on the rejoin there. But as you were saying, I mean, these guys are. He's sitting there. He's in this zone where he's still pushing. He's putting qualifying laps down every single lap. It's not a complacent zone where he's now got 11 seconds of space. He's treating it like this guy is on me and I have to push.
Yeah, it's like I say. And I saw that. That looked a bit. That kind of has you clinching the steering wheel just a bit harder, But again, what we're seeing is maybe drivers are feeling the pressure a bit because they've been together with each other so long, and they're seeing that with three 3 laps to go. It's kind of that moment in a race where you need to get your move going, get in front, and then hopefully try to defend for the remaining 3 laps. So I think maybe we're starting to see a bit of aggression from drivers, just trying to get that move done as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's that race strategy, race tactic of you never really want to force the move. What you want to do is you want to suss out your guy. You want to you follow him 2 laps, 3 laps, and you actually try point and you find where the gaps are. You find the chinks in his lap where your race engineer is telling you through a very cool app that a lot of these guys are going to be using. Oh no! Christopher Simmons absolutely bottling it there. And again, folks, like I said, once you collect that little bit of sand, it's an absolute almost guarantee that the car's going to want to do something on you. Again, showing how Adrian Nell is absolutely sending it. But you know, these guys are at a point, like you said, where they're starting to really, really push. But what you're also finding is that the car maybe in itself, the circuit, I've been seeing little patches of sunshine, I've been seeing little, and it's going to be going up and down on these guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's another very interesting thing. You know, I've commentated a few races now over the past 2-3 years, and that's what you see. The drivers are so in tune with these cars that a change in temperature, a patch of sunlight, a patch of shade can catch these drivers out because they're so in tune that they are picking up these differences. So I know a lot of people say, oh, but sim racing isn't that difficult, but these things matter. And this is how you become good at sim racing, by taking all these little facets of information and putting them together to get that optimal lap time.
And that's exactly it. And it kind of goes back to my point a little bit earlier I got sidetracked on, is that strategy of sussing out that driver in front of you. You might sacrifice a lap or 2 in terms of pace to suss out your driver. Cameron collecting that sausage curve in a big way. But what you want to ultimately do is not force it, throw it down the inside and hope it sticks. You want to find a point where you can outdrive your opponent. Not what you want from Cameron there as he comes through the final Zeppelin curve. Big little bit of runoff there. And as a reminder, folks, these guys are also in a... iRacing has a in-game penalty system, if you want to call it something, Tapella. I'm not sure if how familiar you are with the penalty system, so I'd like to explain it to the folks at home who don't know. They have a set amount of points that they're allowed to accrue in terms of maybe nudging each other, leaving the track limits in terms of runoff or cutting corners or whatever it may be. And if they hit a certain amount of points, it is 17 for the drivers, it will force a drive-through penalty. So it's definitely something these drivers need to be careful of. You can't go too happy out there and start really rubbing with your fellow components, really starting to cut those corners. The game will punish you internally. So it is something to bear in mind that any runoffs you see, if it continues, the drivers will be punished.
I love that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of keeping things fair, because that's another way to make sure that drivers are giving each other the correct amount of room, they're adhering to the racing rules, and they're just, you know, upholding sportsmanship. Penalty systems work, and I know a lot of drivers don't love them, but that's just how we make it work. And it's such a crucial component, like you're saying, sussing out your opponent, just looking at where they're making the mistakes, so you know, I don't need to make that mistake, and by adhering to the rules, this is how I'm going to get myself in there. But as you're seeing with Adrian Nell, running a bit wide there, again, still pushing last lap and still pushing the limits. But as they always say, the best way to drive a race car is fast, and Adrian Nell did that as he crosses the start-finish line and winning this race comfortably, but almost not as comfortable through that last corner.
That pucker factor, I felt the pucker factor through that last corner, because that was the last corner. That was it for the race. So if he had bottled it there's no telling what could have ultimately happened. And as you see, Cameron de Bastos with a huge weave there. Some of these drivers really taking it to the extremes, but kind of want to say that's maybe a bit of a flex. Like, look at how I can make it dance. You know, look at my marionette go.
Look, if you're South African, you know that BMWs dance, and they can dance really well. So I think that's what these drivers are starting to show, that This is the character of a BMW M2.
Right. And on that note, I was very fortunate to have been invited to BMW's M-Fest, this previous one last year. And I actually took a point of going up there to the spinning section. And I love the smell of tire smoke. God, it's like petrol smell kind of thing to me, you know what I mean? And I just sat there just enveloped by all of this smoke. So yeah, that was, like you said, BMWs can dance if you're a South African, and you know this. If you know, you know. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of Heat 2. These are your results. Adrian Nell, masterclass in driving, 12 seconds ahead of Werner Swart in second. Cameron de Bastos taking home third. Barry Kemp fourth. Tristan Donalbrega fifth. Nico Kellerman, followed by Etienne Swart in seventh. Christopher Simmons, followed off by Jaco Grobler. And in 10th place, we have Gabriel Melmed. final driver of the thing. So that was Warren Opperman who got collected in the cherry blossom liveried car there. So he finished a lap down, folks. So now we know who our unfortunate driver was who suffered those two little collections. I'm hoping he has a good consolidation race, because I don't think he's going to feature personally at this point, but I am hoping he can make it up in the consolidation race.
Look, I think it's one of those things, right? It is racing at the end of the day, and someone's mistake can be the downfall of your race, but you kind of need to take it in stride. I always say this on commentary: if your race doesn't work out, there's still so much value to be gained by sticking in the race, driving to the finish. You're not only learning the circuits, you're learning the cars, and you're also improving your own general skill. So, that consolidation race, just do it, get the skill, build that kind of, I don't want to say a thicker skin, but you're building that experience of racing, and trust me, that will work for wonders in your journey going forward.
I cannot tell you how much I love and echo that sentiment. And as I understand it, we're about to move into some highlights from the last two races. But, Tapelo, I cannot tell you how much I cannot agree more with that sentiment, because it enforces a positive mindset in racing, not just, I got punted. So here we come. This is a replay from I believe this was the first race, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, this was the first race.
Yes, this was race one. Yes.
Yes. Unfortunate though, as you can see, and the more I watch this, the more I see this, the more I'm leaning towards racing incident. Everyone just got a little bit elbows out through a very tight corner, and bad things happened. In that 8-year-old South Park saying, you're gonna have a bad time. What you're seeing though is guys collecting, as I said, those sausages, the BMW snapping on you, throwing you out a little bit. That little livery car, still waiting for someone in the chat to tell me which car that livery features on in real world racing, unless in all the excitement of the race I didn't actually see. But that student driver livery being overtaken there by Luke Lucchesi, absolutely late on the braking. They're forcing the pass. Look, it works, Tapelo. That late brake maneuver does work if it's the right kind of corner. But you don't want to force your fellow competitor into having to guess what you're about to do. You want to be consistent. You want to be predictable in motorsport. That's a big thing.
Yes, of course. That's one of the biggest things about racing. The great champions have shown that they are really consistent. And I think to try and pull off a late braking move just shows how confident you are in your braking and just the control of the car that you'll have. So I love seeing those kind of moves. Yes, we all love kind of the fast move around the outside, but breaking down the inside and getting that car to stop where you needed to, that's brilliant racing. And yeah, you see that control on the brakes. If you're not really 100% on the brakes, you are going to touch the car in front. So that just shows how difficult it is to get that late braking move down the inside correctly.
I recognize the number. That was obviously Steven Koenig getting collected there, coming to an absolute stop. Really, really, tough situation, but great on him on controlling it, staying on the brakes and having a safe rejoin. That's a really great one. Here we go. The absolute chaos of race 2. Everyone even more of a stacking as they all enter. And this was unfortunate. At this point, you're a passenger, Tapelo. When that happens to you, you're a passenger, frankly. And he did brilliant to stop it before the tire wall, but still passenger.
Yeah, passenger 100%. You think you're in control, but once that car's gone, you just have to wait it out and see what's going to happen. So I think just as we're seeing these replays now, we've seen 2 races so far, a big pinch in turn 1 on the first lap. So I have to ask you, Richard, what would your tactic be? Do you go hard and hot into turn 1, or do you kind of just sit back and let it happen and then see if you can make up the places going forward in the race?
Personally, with this circuit, I focus more on the second section. I want to make sure that I've got a drive out to Hasse Oda, which is that really, really tricky left-hand hairpin before triple. So that first part of it is unfortunately in there. There we go. That's that little bit of a tap that we saw earlier, and it collects him and sends him into the wall. So unfortunately, that was a contact. We have confirmation, and Warren Opperman obviously there getting the short end of the stick, unfortunately, on that one. But there's always some races to go, basically. But back to corner 1. I find if you just try avoid the trouble, you actually end up getting a really great drive. And when this was the feature race in the M2 Championship in iRacing, I drove it quite a bit in preparation for this, just to try get better knowledge of the circuit. And frankly, that was what I employed every time. Just avoid. Don't get involved. Don't just make sure you get through the first corner. But Tapelo, if I have to be brutally honest, I am of a skill set vastly lower than some of the drivers who are out there today. So,
Listen, my friend. That's why you and I are in the commentary box and we're not the ones racing today. So I fully understand.
Right, exactly. You know, like I said earlier, I was lamenting my non-involvement. I want to drive. Now I'm looking at it going, kind of glad for my own reputation that I didn't.
No, we try our best. We try our best. But as we see the starting grid for the next race, and Richard, do you want to take us through it?
Absolutely. Nico Kellerman and Essie Esterhuis, they're going to be starting us off on row 1. Tristan de Nobrega, Noah Hendricks starting us off on row 2. Barry Kemp and Olaf Fuemi, they're going to be starting us off on row 3. Cameron de Bestos and Rikas, they're going to be on row 4. Werner Swart and our other Nigerian, Kamto, he is on row 5. That's going to be quite a fight that he's got through the grid there because he's got some pace. Folks, we've got a big grid on this one. Adrian Nell bringing up row 6 with Luke Lucchesi. Jaco van der Linth bringing up row 7 with Etienne Swart. Janeman Price and Christopher Simmons. Row 8, Jakus Ava and Jakob Krobler. Row 9, Stephen Koenig and Gabriel Melmed on row 10. Folks, this is a big one. And this is the one that we've got to be very careful. And there am I again, apparently. So apologies on that one with Warren Opperman. So what I'd like to point out, folks, is we mentioned a consolidation race earlier. Okay, but we're not going to be having it as our grid allows for all of our competitors to take place in our final. This one, folks, is the big one. This is our feature race and is going to be 25 laps. Unless I am getting a bit ahead of myself, and I'll hopefully hear from our director if I have. If not, awesome. As we head off now behind the Porsche safety car, Tupelo, this is the big one, as we've been talking about, 25 laps. You ready?
So 25 laps, for people that don't understand, that means us as a commentary team, we need to rest our throats and just ease our voices because this is going to be action-packed. When you have a bigger grid, things tend to happen. And what I like about races with bigger grids is you'll just see people naturally find their place in a race. They kind of find the cars around them with the similar pace and they just keep going. 25 laps is so crucial to get your race strategy and your race IQ right because anything can happen in 25 laps.
And if I could, slightly just to change the subject, and I'm going to come back to your thought now because I would just like to point out, I missed who pointed it out, Rexy, very nicely to information technology in the YouTube. Very well done. That is the livery that I was talking about, that Porsche GT3 livery. Stephen Koenig now has his ears on by the looks of things. He's getting into the zone with his I don't know what kind of ears those are, but he's rolling some ears down there in 19th. So, you know, maybe that's his good luck charm. You never know. You know, I'm wearing my Sparko gaming t-shirt. That's what I wear when I drive. Yeah, maybe that's what's his thing. That's his thing. As we're approaching this McDonald's complex, I'm not going to lie, the nerves are beginning to rise for the drivers. You know, look at that view we've got of how many cars are actually on this grid.
Yeah, look, for sure. It's one of those. And I always say, you know, the warm-up lap or prep lap, whichever way you want to call it around the world, that's where it kind of becomes real for a driver. You know, you're on the circuit, you're kind of trying to find your rhythm, you're getting your mind right because you know the pace that's going to hit just after this lap is going to be so crucial. You want to get your point right, but you want to calm down. You don't want to start the race with too high a heart rate. You're going to make a mistake. You want to calm down, find yourself, and then see what you can do in the race.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't echo that enough. You know, if you're sitting mid-pack at the moment, you've got all kinds of things running through your head. Even the guys in third and fourth, even the guys in second and first, they have all got a number of different things running through their head. As you can see, the safety car peeling off through Zeppelin. Folks, this is it. We are about to go green lights. They are stacking up. It is up to the leader to control the pace at this point, but at this point, he can start accelerating. Everyone else needs to match pace. Here we are on the 11, and we are green lights, folks. You can see everyone starting to stack up, starting to change out of the 11. Come on, I'm holding my breath, dude. I'm not going to lie. This first corner, as we see this thing, please, everyone make it through here because this is a spectacular shot of our field as they come through. Everyone being spectacularly well behaved. I'm not seeing any tire smoke. I'm not seeing any gravel smoke. Fantastic. And I had to say it, didn't I?
Of the commentator, like I said, and it's just unfortunate it had to be the car in the student driver livery to kind of make a mistake when everyone's getting it right. But hey, that's racing, and I think we're seeing a bit of that experience. The drivers have calmed down a bit. Yes, it is a final race, you know, one lap of 25. They kind of understand you don't need to push that hard in the first lap. You can kind of relax and take it as it comes. As we see already in front, Noah Hendricks trying to hold that pace, kind of having to run a bit out wide because they compromised themselves going in and they've been tagged. There's a bit of contact and they've spun around, but I think they've managed to hold it well. So now we've got a change of lead again in front. It's the Senna livery. I'm not going to get my hopes up again, but I'm going to keep it down, keep it cool, as hopefully these drivers are trying to do as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That center livery now just needs to keep focus, keep it going. Mr. De Nobrega, one of the drivers for Race Driver South Africa RDSA, absolutely in a position where he can settle in, focus, and get going. A little bit of damage from some of the cars. Folks, unlike GT3s, a little bit of aero damage in these things is not the end of the world. These cars actually don't have a tremendous amount of aero. The difficulty is if you damage, call it cooling parts and other control elements. Like I said, these cars can be a little bit delicate. So you really want to make sure that you're not pushing yourself into a position. As we see one of those BMWs climbing into the pit lane, this is also a pit lane that is in itself quite tricky because of how tight and technical it can be. You can hear the pit lane siren going off there. Luke Lucchesi definitely picking up a little bit of damage. You can see that front bumper, not a happy bumper, but so far it does look like everyone has started to behave themselves. A very clear train starting to form as we have, who was that? I think it was Jacques Ava running a little bit wide there, collecting a bit of the sand. Guys, a car like this, we joke about turbo grass and stuff. This, unfortunately, is a car that just you cannot. You really can't if you are trying to battle someone. And that could have really compromised the next couple of sections that Jacques is going into. You can see a couple of the guys, big commitments, huge throw down the first start, a triple there from Noah Hendricks. That was a absolutely, that was the lick the stamp and send it. There, it happened.
There we go. I'm an athlete. I'm an athlete straight. Of course.
Yeah.
No, but again, we're starting to see that confidence from these drivers to trying to get a move down the inside, because drivers get so accustomed to defending on the outside that you can sometimes tend to surprise them if you go down the inside, as we saw with Noah Hendricks there. But again, the train is forming. That just tells you that these drivers are kind of maintaining pace with each other, and they're still trying to suss it out. We saw with Opperman going into the pit lane, that's not the end of the world. 25 laps is still long enough for you to kind of get back to the end, to the back of the grid, and try and make things happen to salvage your race. But again, drivers holding it nice. I think there was a bit of contact there in the rear, but so far so good for all these drivers.
And I think what we're seeing is potentially a little bit of call it a breathing room for Tristan de Nobrega here, as we have Esterhazy really collecting that sausage curb coming through the last little bit of Bauer. That compromised him all the way down to Zeppelin, and then he clipped the curb on Zeppelin as well, which, I mean, at that point, that's this motherlessly long straight that you've got to go on to. What this has done is it's caused a bit of a stack up behind second place, and really what we're seeing now is a fight for second. Tristan de Nobrega, dude, put your head down and go. It's time to you got a bit of breathing room. You know what I mean? No more slip, no more chasing you. It's a fight for second. But like you just said, 25 laps. We're only in lap 3. We can't get too ahead of ourselves either in the commentary box, because there is a lot that can happen here. You've got guys, I mean, don't forget, we have 2 representatives from Motorsport Games, from their representative countries. These are people who aren't going to be slow, Tapella.
Not at all. And I think that's what I love about sim racing. You're going to get different catalog of drivers, some extremely fast, some still learning the ropes, as we see with this replay of Essie Esterhazy so far. Again, those curbs are so dangerous. It's a big risk to try and attack them, because this can happen. And Essie got very lucky there that it didn't throw the rear of the happen. Yeah. And that's when you tend to lose a race because of hitting a curb.
I would say there was definitely a big bit of luck there, because that is a big crash spot with that curb, and I think what managed to save him was sacrificing the pace he had behind Tristan. He saved the car, but has compromised him now, by the looks of things, all the way down to 7th place, are now chasing down second position. Werner Swart now on the way into the pit lane. Hey, it's quite curious. Oh no, Werner Opperman again finding himself in the tires. Not what you want to be seeing. Adrian Nell getting turned around. Oh no. I really hope this isn't us. Very, very safe rejoin there. Waiting. Very, very, very well done there. Taking the time to make the rejoin. Folks, I cannot emphasize how difficult that is as a mentality. Because you've just been turned around, or you've just spun, and you everything in your body is screaming, go. First gear, foot flat, go. But you've got other people on the circuit who are now coming past you. You have to consider them in your rejoin. And if you collect any of them, that's a cardinal sin. Like Tapella, I mean, you can do almost anything in sim racing, but collecting someone in a bad rejoin, that's not cricket.
And look, those are one of the areas that you are grateful that it's sim racing and the drivers are near you, because that is textbook 101 bad things to do in racing, and particularly in sim racing. So yes, you're so right, Richard. Your body is screaming at you to get that car back on circuit as soon as you can. But to have that patience, that wherewithal, to just understand that things are happening around you on circuit, just be patient and you'll get back. Kudos to the drivers for that, because that is extremely difficult to go against all your instincts, as we see that BMW running wide. I've seen a few cars run wide at that corner, but they've been able to kind of salvage it. It hasn't been that big an issue, but you just hope that someone isn't running too wide, because again, there's always a limit to traction and you don't want to ruin an upcoming corner just by going wide and going onto the dust.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, fastest lap coming through again from Tristan de Nobrega, another 1:34. He's just slowly starting to chip away. But I mean, going back to that save and the running on the sand, again, we're maybe tooting the horns of these drivers quite a lot, but that is a really significant showing of how these drivers are in control of these cars, because again, you're running off there and the car is now, because of its differential and how the car's set up and the way the toe and camber on the front wheels are set up, the car, the second it hits the sand, it's going to start pulling you into the sand, because obviously, you know, you've got more traction on the right, it's pushing you off. It's a disaster waiting to happen. But these drivers, like you said, have that wherewithal to go, okay, I need to actually start to correct 2%. That saves the pulling, bring it onto the circuit. That is a pro move every day of the week, to have that thought process in the heat of that moment. So you even see how the cars step out there. These drivers are dancing with these cars, these M2s. Really what we're seeing is some masterful driving here today.
Yeah, for sure. And just to explain to the ladies and gentlemen why we're praising it so much is because we've done a bit of sim work ourselves, and trust me, it's experience that's talking, because I've gone wide on a few corners and fair to say I didn't survive the corner. So again, masterful driving from these drivers. But again, this is what I love about BMW M2 CS Racing as a whole package. You need to have your wits about you in this car. You need to just make it dance in the corners, as we see again. Tristan de Nobrega going fast again. This is such a crucial phase, and what Tristan is doing is something that is known as consistent fast laps. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a phase of a race where you have to put your head down and your sole focus is on getting as many quick laps as possible, and Tristan is doing that extremely well in the front, as we see the other cars still battling as we ride on board with Noah Hendricks looking at the back here. So still not a lot of breathing room, but again, Noah Hendricks seems to be holding it well. Still in P5, but there's a big group, so anything can happen in this group. You can be P5 at one corner and P2 at the end of the lap. So there's still a lot to play for in this race.
I know. I mean, this is a nice little train that's forming, because these guys, as you see time in and time out, it almost has a magnetic effect. Everyone is defending and attacking everyone else, so everyone's offending and attacking everyone else. And that, as we see with so many times, and we see it with some of the battles forming today, that has an almost slowing down effect. It does sacrifice a little bit of your lap time, because you aren't able to do what Tristan's doing. Put the blinkers on and go. You don't have to think of anything else other than your brake markers, your apex points, the critical things that will make you fast. These guys are all now in knife fight mode, street fight mode. So what they're doing is a little bit of sacrificial, a little bit of contact there, not what we want to see from Barry Kemp. Little bit of a dive there, didn't quite work out for him. Still a little bit of contact as everyone's still trying to find their feet. That's not what you want to see, as he is left it stranded in the middle of the circuit. That is 100% going to need to be a pit stop for Nico Kellerman. They will call him in for a meatball flag for that. That was a very, very quick little dive off. What I'm also thinking we're seeing, Tapello, is guys are making that pit stop we spoke about. The guys have decided that, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it now. A little bit of the flashing lights. Can't tell if that's anger or... it's probably anger, considering what we just saw, but it is unfortunate. But folks, we have to reiterate, this is racing. These are guys that are getting, the adrenaline is going. The racing cars may not be real, Tapello, but hell, the racing is. You can't fault that.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the immersion level of these games is so high that, trust me, your heart rate will shoot up as you're going through these corners and racing wheel to wheel with these other cars. And I think what's so critical now, as we're seeing some of the drivers taking their pit stops, fine, they might need to repair some damage, but there's also something in the back of your mind that says, I need to find a bit of clear air. And when you're in traffic and you're battling some other cars, it's always better to take that pit stop just to alleviate the pressure a bit. So if you know you're going to take a pit stop, take it as soon as possible, but it also gives you the advantage that you might get out on a piece of track that isn't that congested, and then you can do exactly what Nobrega's doing at the front, put your head down and churn those laps out and try and get back to the battle that you wanted to be in.
And again, I don't want to curse anyone, but folks, we must point out that as much as Nobrega is pulling away, we are in a 25 lap race now. So it is frankly his to lose. And again, like you said, he still has to consider his pit stop. He still has to consider the guy behind is he monitoring the guy behind him? Yeah, he's putting a bit of a gap. But is he going to pit with the guy behind him to ensure? As we see Etienne Swart diving into the pit lane. Again, I think this is what we're seeing, is guys taking the pit stop now, choosing the big undercut. I mean, this is a big undercut. Look at this, 8 of 25. But, maybe guys are taking the option now because then they can kind of do exactly like you said, do what Tristan's doing, put the blinkers on and go. Still a lot of laps to go here, ladies and gentlemen, and it is still a lot to go in it. I believe we've maybe only got 1 or 2 cars off the lead lap. That means, folks, that it is still very much in it for absolutely everyone on this grid. I wouldn't put it down to something... I go back to what you said, make the drivers lose it. No, I want to make them sweat. This is a long race now. You've got to settle in. You've got to bring out a very professional mindset of just... Now you've got to get it to the finish, right? You've got to make sure that you keep it together. The app I mentioned earlier, Tapelo, I'm sure you're familiar with it, probably use it yourself, Crew Chief. I make my crew chief shout at me. He's got full permission to proper shout at me in that app if I start making mistakes,
I get it. And I think it's such a difficult thing, right? Because there are so many things to think about in a race. It's your car. It's the closest car to you. As we see Jacques Ava with a bit of a problem. I think they were trying to get into the pits. Might as well just take that pit stop already there, as we're seeing. But again, the battle here with Werner Swart, again, like I was saying, there's so many things to think about. It's your car, the car nearest to you, car in front of you, car behind you, car a lap down. There are so many things you need to think about when to take that pit stop. Will you get the undercut, the overcut? It's so crucial to keep a calm head in a race like this. 25 laps is a lot, but 25 laps can also be a small amount if you keep making mistakes. As we see here, there might be an overtake. Again, running wide just kills a bit of your momentum, and that's why you lose a position like that, as we see Werner Swart going through there.
Yeah, so that's actually a fantastic little thing, little bit of footage that we got to see there, because it maybe illustrates the point I made in Heat 1 on how dangerous that little green runoff piece can be. Yes, it is still part of the circuit. Yes, you won't get a penalty if you go off onto it. Should you be driving there? No. Oi, that's a big turnaround. That was very nearly quite a scary situation for Adrian Null and Barry Kemp coming through there. That was... Learner driver livery, Tapelo. I think we've got our learner driver. This livery is living up to its name at the moment. But that was also a pucker factor. Those guys coming through there, all they saw was that smoke. They had to judge.
Yeah. Look, that's one of the things that happens in racing. You're going to hit a blind corner and you're just going to hope there's nothing on the other side. So to come through and see the learner driver doing learner driver stuff on circuit, it kind of stresses you out a bit. But as you ride on board with a focus again on Tristan Denobriga, again, 7 seconds in front now. And like you were saying, Richard, it's so crucial. When are they going to take that pit stop of this? Because there's so much to consider. Will they come out in front again? Will they come out in traffic? Will they come out in a battle? You're, again, doing these tiny calculations and adjustments to your overall race, lap after lap after lap. Because a race changes, ladies and gentlemen. Half a lap, 2 corners, everything can change. So you're always thinking about what to do now, what to do later, and what's going to happen 10 laps down the line.
Absolutely, as we have Jan Price chasing down one of his teammates, waiting to see the number to see which teammate it is. That looks like it is Steven Koenig he's chasing down. This team, ladies and gentlemen, possibly one of my favorite team names, Team Heaped Together, because that's how it started. Just a group of people who kind of had to form a team because they needed to do a race kind of thing. Ooh, not what Jan wants there, as he definitely gets the door closed on him by his teammate. Very, very well done on the save. And luckily in a section where you're not going to lose a tremendous amount of pace because it is a very short little section, running into this final section of Annemann, Bauer and Zeppelin curves, as you can see here, running onto the start-finish straight. It has cost Janneman, though. It definitely did. As he takes a sneaky drag from his vape on camera there. This is also, I suppose, the benefit of sim racing is, you can have a sip of water, you can do your thing while you're driving. It's the benefit of sim racing, It's really within the comfort of your own home sometimes,
That's definitely one way to keep the heart rate down and keep the focus going in a race. But
right.
Yeah, look... We all have our methods. Unfortunately, as a commentator, you focus on everything and you see everything. So I think we're big brother today. But again, Jan Price, he went wide, but he's already back on pace with the other drivers. So maybe the vape is the secret weapon here.
Maybe.
But again,
it's his gummy berry juice, apparently.
Lap 10 of 25. Again, such a crucial point in the race. You don't want to lose pace with the drivers around you. But as you can see here, Kyalami Price running that alternate line, sticking to the inside, and that is a brilliant move. Brilliant move. Again, like we were saying, a lot of drivers tend to go on the outside to try and maximize pace, but if you can get your nose to bite and take that inside line, you will see moves like that all day, and that was brilliant. Gabriel Milmed should just try not to fall away, keep pace, and the move will come to them eventually as well.
Yeah, as we see here, a little fantastic showing of respect to the blue flags. As you can see, Luke Lucchesi, though, absolutely chasing down this the learner driver in. I would love to actually, Mr. El Director, if we could, I would love to know who is in the learner driver car, as I don't see their number on our back end. So if you could at somewhere, Rickers Hutting, fantastic, thank you. So Rickers Hutting is our student driver livery. He is being hunted down by Luke Lucchesi, and I can speak from experience as being hunted down by Luke Lucchesi in a sim race. It's extremely difficult, as he has a very I like to say, reminds you that you're there. He puts his nose so close to you that you go, you're too close, man. As you can see, he has just put himself into that position where, frankly, Rickers has no choice. Rickers can either close the door and crash, or he can capitulate and allow Luke Lucchesi past. But this is like you're saying, you can't really fall away here. He is in a good spot. He is still well within striking distance of Luke. He's very much going to still be in the toe if he can stay with it now. Because obviously here we're going through the last little bit of McDonald's. We're now running into the long straight before Shell. He is still in the slip. You can see he's still in the slip. He's close enough. He may just find Luke has to force a slightly defensive drive through here. Folks, we have a long race to still go, and again, Rickers Hutting, as much as we are very tongue-in-cheek making jokes about the student driver livery, ladies and gentlemen, Rickers Hutting is no slouch. Let me just put that very much out there. This is a man who has every capability, skill set wise, to strike back. He maybe is just potentially on some of the troubles he's been having is not driving. Think about it this, depending. I'll leave you with this: the spins that we've had him on camera with. That will punish tires, right? Especially with the rear-wheel drive car that's nice and light like this. His tires are also probably very, very tired now, and I don't think he's pit yet.
Aha. See? That's why you're number one and I'm number two, because you're focusing on the important things. But yes, You're right. Part of the strategy in these races is fully understanding that you have to take care of these tires as well. It's not about outright pace. It's about keeping the tires alive, and overworking them will count against you in a race like this. So again, we spoke about just some of the things that these drivers have to think about, the timings, the pit stops, the drivers around him. But again, in your car, tire management is so key to how you drive a race. And we might start to see a bit of time management from the different drivers. Like you said, driving styles might change, just different braking points just to nurse the tires. But again, very, very critical in this kind of race, as we see with Etienne Swart here running wide. And as we spoke about, let's see, is this a save? I think that angle is too big. Yep. That angle is too big.
No. Oh, you can even see it. You can see it destroyed the front end suspension. That car is now immobile. You can see he took the toe. Something I'd like to jump back to as we still ride along on board with SC Esterhazy. I'd just like to point out to the viewing public, and we were speaking about immersion. Next time we jump on board with him, I'd like the public to just have a look at the LED displays that SC has on his rig. I use quite a similar system, but I don't have LED displays. I use old phones. There we go, on screen now. You can see his gears are also up at the top there. But ladies and gentlemen, that is also flag signals. So SC can rely on his own rig, and you see the flashing of the gears and all that. That is visual cues he's installed onto his rig to make his immersion greater. And when we have a yellow or a red or a white flag or anything along those lines, those will change to what the driver needs to see. That is essentially his race logic, race computer that race control can talk to him through, which is very cool, because that kind of shows, depending on how seriously some of our drivers actually take their sport, that this is the caliber of the rig that this gentleman is using, as you can see.
Is it okay if I say I'm jealous? Because
no, that was a very, very should I say yummy rig? Just put it like that.
No, but again, you're so right? Look, sim racing is all about putting those laps in and developing that skill. And as we were saying, that's why you shouldn't really quit a race, as we can see Adrian Nell going through there, just holding the tighter line and getting the better exit. But just going back to the sims and immersion factor, again, getting everything that can get your mentality right for the race, just have you fully focused on the race itself, is such a beautiful thing. And I've tried different sims, from the lower brackets to the higher brackets, and trust me, sometimes they really are worth that money to just get that experience as you ride. Focus again on Rikus Hutting in the student driver, and again, this is what we were talking about, ladies and gentlemen. If you hit those sausage curbs hard enough, especially with a car with a shorter wheelbase like these M2 CSs, it will unsettle the car, and it's a very difficult thing to try and catch the car. And as we saw there, Rikus couldn't catch it, and that's why he ended up in the wall. So it's a big risk to getting close to those sausage curbs, because that can happen.
Yeah, anyone who's familiar with Kyalami, right? If I say Kyalami, everyone knows what sausage I'm going to be talking about here. It has a very similar effect. So anytime you see our drivers hitting those sausages, you got to hold your breath a little bit for them. And as you saw there with both Rikus Hutting and I think this for Yaku Krobler is potentially a tire and maybe fuel stop. Personally, if it were me, maybe the tires aren't going to fall off as quickly as the fuel in these cars. But personally, I would take new tires. I would take some new tackies for this track because yeah, you got 2 laps of getting these things back up to heat, but then, hey, you can seriously start to turn the taps on again. But in iRacing with these IMSA rules, if memory serves, you do have to change 1 tire at a time. That obviously adds a tremendous amount of time to your pit stop. Something a lot of these drivers who are in these higher positions, especially guys like Essie and maybe Noah Hendricks, are not going to be willing to do because they're still trying to chase down Tristan.
Yeah, look, it goes back to what I was saying, right? That mathematics that you're doing throughout the race, because the race is a living thing. You're trying to figure out how much am I losing in the pits? Can I make the time back on circuit? I agree with you, Richard. I'm always a fan of, once I'm in the pits, just try and do everything, because I can always try and make up that time back on circuit. And like you're saying, the benefit of new tires is, yes, you'll take a few laps to get them back up to temperature. But once they are, that consistency you'll get in grip allows you just to push that much further, that much harder, and then you'll make back that time. So again, different drivers have different techniques and they prefer to do things differently, but that's what we'll see, as we see here with the 2 identical liveries, M2, Cameron Bastos, and who is it? It's a Swart as well. So
I think we're looking at Janeman Price and Cameron Bastos, 2 teammates. And from my history, these are 2 gentlemen who, as much as they're teammates, they are not going to give each other any consideration in terms of, they're going to give each other space, they'll be super respectful, but it's a knife fight. I can promise you that now. I've driven with these 2 and I have been in front of them a lead lap down when these 2 first and second come screaming up to me behind me. Whew. There's a lot to be said about how these guys can drive under pressure. So even though they're all the way down in 11th, folks, this is 20 of the country's fastest in iRacing who are absolutely sending it around here. These are guys who are still maybe a bit further down. Tapela, let's be realistic. Some of the guys maybe don't have a shot at first at the moment, but I would say down to at least 4th, it is still Tristan's to lose.
For sure, Tristan is running that pace, and again, every time we kind of switch back to talking about him, we always see the gap go up a bit, just maintain there, so to say. So Tristan Obriga is doing a really good job about maintaining that pace out there in front. But what I love about racing is the victory in racing, apart from obviously the victory of finishing first, is finishing a race. There's such a huge element of finishing a race, and that's why as a sportsman, I've played a lot of sport in school and in my personal life. That's one of the things you will always taught. You never give up. You kind of just keep pushing yourself. The main challenger for you is the previous you. You're always trying to beat yourself. So if you can survive this race, yes, you might finish P10, P11, but that's still an achievement for you for finishing a race. And again, it's skills development. You're going to be, next race, you might be the one who's in first, and that skill you maintained of finishing a 25-lap race might count good for you in a 10-lap race. You never know.
Absolutely, and I love that mentality, because something, if you know me well, I'm a massive Le Mans fan. I'm one of those guys that stays up for the full 24 hours. My missus knows, come June, it's happening, it's time, it's go time, Le Mans. But that's the very emphasis. Sorry, apologies there. I think someone trying to call me on my WhatsApp line there. Apologies about that, everyone. One of the things that you get is that stringent mentality of never give up. It's a 24-hour race. You can still make it back to the pit lane. You can still finish. And that in itself, sometimes something like Le Mans, and yes, folks, here with 25 laps of a race with 9 laps to go, this is not the Le Mans. Obviously, it's a one-make race, very cool, lengthy sprint race with a one-make series, but the mentality does not change. It is still a push, push, push. Do not give up. Do not capitulate. And if I'm 5th, 15th, 21st, it does not matter. Finish the race. That is the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something that organizations like the FIA, like MSA, are just going to tell their racers, try and finish a race and keep pushing yourself. And as we saw there, sorry, Richard, you were still on your point, so I didn't want to interrupt you. We saw that inside move once again from Adrian Nell. Getting that car set up directly for the brakes, just brake a bit later and you get that inside line. Again, a brilliant move, and we're starting to see now with 9 laps to go, maybe we'll see a bit of pace increase from these drivers, but again, we're going to start getting to that point where it gets a bit more aggressive, because you know the laps are running out, so you need to get your move done, and hopefully you can defend until the end.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what we're talking about is, like you mentioned that beautiful word, that concertina effect that you get in motorsport in the corners. You are going to now have that in and amongst these various battles that are forming on the circuit. You're going to have a number of people that are settling into their rhythm, because yes, 11th and 10th, but it's now about beating my teammate. You know, it's not about finishing wherever, it's about finishing in front of the man with the same color livery as me. And that in itself is, again, why you find the enthusiasm surrounding motorsport is tangible, because it's something that you can experience and feel. And I often, Tupelo, relate back to as hard and as tough as COVID was for everybody. I mean, let's not beat around that bush. It was a time for sim racing that absolutely exploded. It was a time where we had sim racing coming out of every angle and different things all over the place. And what it's done is it's showcased an incredible love for motorsport amongst people who would have otherwise never been able to compete in real life, in real racing cars. The stuff like the motorsport games allowing various people, and it is a real shame that South Africa wasn't able to attend the last one. That is not going to be the case next one. So you find that these sim racers suddenly become really, really, really prominent real-world drivers. I mean, I don't know if, Tupelo, you've ever seen that video of the drifter who has never driven a real drift car before, but gets into a real drift car and proceeds to masterfully send it around this little course.
I absolutely love it. I'm very familiar with the video you're talking about. So you're so right? Look, I've known about sim racing, but I was never that big into it. It was kind of a thing on my periphery. But you're right, during those COVID period, it became such a big thing. We were watching people live stream their races. We developed communities. We were in groups where these videos were shared. And again, that video of the sim racer who was given the opportunity to get in a drift car and he absolutely nailed it on track. It just goes to show how important these kind of events, these kind of groups are in developing a passion for the sport. There's a lot of people that I know in my own personal life who were never really interested in these kind of things, but because they had to sit and watch us kind of participate in the community, they love it more than we do. They're so inculcated in the environment. They love the racing. They love their sim setups. They're spending money to get their sim setups as great as they want them. So that passion is coming through, and we're seeing that passion develop massively in South Africa, and again wider into the African continent. Again, as we focus again just here with Tristan Obriga, that gap now 9.7 seconds with 7 laps to go. I don't think he's still done his pit stop. So it's about that time now where he's doing the math. When do I pit? Do I still maintain pace? And it has to be questioned how well those tires are holding on for Tristan down there in front.
Yeah, I've been wondering that myself actually for the last 3 laps, thinking I haven't seen this man go into the pits, which may mean he is going to attempt a no-stopper, which is just quite incredible if you think about it. Down in our previous stint winner, down Adrian Nell, he's down in 18th, and if memory serves, that was due to again, you don't want to be collecting on some of these curbs, ladies and gents. As you can see, this is kind of illustrating the point Tupelo and I were making earlier about the saves that some of these drivers are making, but also illustrating how some of these tires are starting to let go, because I suspect the limits of grip and adhesion these tires have to the surface. Bear in mind, extremely accurate simulators, iRacing. So you've definitely got a really realistic representation of how much these cars are feeding back to the driver.
Look, and I always find the best part, which is kind of what kind of got me into commentary work as well, because I used to explain these concepts to friends of mine who weren't really interested in racing, is trying to explain to a person why it's so crucial to understand when your tires fall off, when your tires age and they degrade, is your responses are just not the same. The car doesn't behave the same. Where you used to brake, it's never the same anymore. How you used to accelerate, it's never the same. So a part of being a good and great driver is understanding those changes and adapting on the fly as and when it happens in a race. And that's what we're seeing here. So again, if Tristan is going to do a no-stop race, very difficult thing to do, but it shows the confidence and in tune, if I can use that, with the car to understand if the tires are degrading, this is how I have to alter my driving style, this is how I have to brake, this is how smooth I have to be on throttle inputs, and just the turning input as well changes. Your steering angles are vastly different. So again, understanding the car and understanding the changes you have to make during a race is a crucial but very difficult skill to get right.
Oh, sure. It's the same as if, I suppose, if it starts raining on you, right, and that you're 3 laps into the race. It's the same thing. You've got
100%.
You've got to adjust your driving style. You've got to adjust where you drive on the track. I mean, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at a very clean track. The guys who are going off are having very big accidents. So we're very seldomly seeing huge amounts of marbles and dirt being brought onto the track. As we say it, our first place man, Mr. Tristan Nobrega, 60 kilometers an hour down the pit lane. He is going to be making his pit stop with 5 laps to go. Now, it is going to be very curious what Hendricks does, because the gap is rapidly closing at the moment. Luke Lucchesi currently not heading into the pit lane, but our man from Nigeria is currently diving in. I'm going to throw my hands up in the air, Tupelo, and say I don't know how this is going to fall, because Noah Hendricks is now down to 2 seconds. He is going to, as Tristan starts exiting the pit lane, I think we are going to be seeing Luke Lucchesi coming through here. So Tristan's going to get out in front of Luke, but looks like Noah has potentially taken a pit stop by the looks of where he is now currently in the timing. It does look like he is falling down, which either tells me, yes, there we go. We have our second place man who was in second. He has now dropped down to 6th. But folks, remember, it is relative for where he is in terms of pit stops. Bello, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Luke has pitted. I don't think Mr. Luke... I am hearing confirmation that now everybody has pitted. So Luke has managed to find himself up in second place. That was a phenomenal little bit of driving to capitalize on that pit stop from Noah Hendricks, and that pit stop has really hurt Noah Hendricks. So the push to try and make it as late as possible, like you were saying, the gamble didn't pay off.
Yeah, but what we're seeing as well, that crucial phase we were talking about for Tristan Nobrega, where they were putting in those massively consistent and fast laps. And we pointed out when we were riding on board with him that he was pushing that car to its limits. And that's how they ensured that after this pit, they can come out in front as well. That phase of a race is so underrated, but it's so crucial to just put your head down. Like we've said multiple times in this broadcast, Richard, put the blinkers on and just get those laps done.
No, absolutely. It's something that I think has become quite crucial as we see Rickus getting rally mode in the background there. That was really well done, but you can see the pace that it has had to sacrifice in terms of the what happened on the straight. He went from having a fantastic little bit of a gap from the car behind him to now really having to worry about the gap all the way for the rest of this race. We've only got 4 laps to go, but 4 laps is 4 laps.
Where has the time gone, so they'd say. But yeah, you're right, 4 laps is 4 laps, and so much can happen in that. As we've seen already in this race, running wide, getting your rear tire on that grass, on the curb, running wide, getting on the gravel, it's such a small, minute mistake, but the consequences are huge. And this is what these drivers have to be careful of, because how often have we seen, especially in the sim racing community, a driver lose their position and lose a race in the final 5 laps? Absolutely. It's one of those now. My palms are even starting to sweat a little bit for these guys, because it is coming down to that crux point. I mentioned it earlier, someone's to lose. We're at the point now where Luke Lucchesi's run has dramatically closed the gap to Tristan Nobrega. Now, I don't want to, these are also 2 teammates, so these are going to scrap with each other, but you've got to wonder, how is Luke's car faring? He's now out on potentially some far more scrubbed tires, as Janaman Price potentially is going to capitalize on Cameron de Bestos' mistake. Can you see, folks, how that car wants to step out? That is the signature characteristic of this M2. She just wants to step on you. She likes to go sideways. She likes to do little rear end snaps and stuff. So when we're praising these drivers, please know that it's not hollow. It is a genuine display of talent here. Yeah, look, and I'm going to say this to everyone. If you have a friend, if you know someone with a sim rig, just try and get on iRacing and just try and do laps, and especially a car like this. It is really such a difficult and draining exercise. So for these drivers, 3 laps to go over 25 race, trust me, it's not only your body that's tight, but it's your mind. The level of concentration you have to put in to really maintain this position, to really maintain the pace, is astronomical, and it is difficult, and kudos to these drivers. Like I said, one of the biggest victories in any race is finishing the race.
Fantastic stuff. It's you know, I cannot put that enough, because my old man, when I was racing as a youngster, he started calling it brain fade. I mean, what happened? You get brain fade because it is basically your brain just gets so tired from everything you're having to think about, and that just emphasizes this slightly longer race is it's a thinking man's game as well. You know, Tapelo, it's not just about your physical readiness to actually drive your rig, because some of these rigs, folks, with the direct drives, they can really fight you. It's a thinking game. You've got to think, you know, I've got 3 laps to go. Janneman's got to be thinking, you know, how am I making my move on Cameron here? Is he going to make a move? Is he going to help just push his teammate, you know, sit on him? As we see here, Orfuemi making a move, or should I say having a move made on him, does look like he's going to run off a little bit. That is really going to hurt him coming into this last little section of the triples, and it is going to really, really make it not worth as well. That was Jaco van der Lint that went off. Apologies on that one. It was Olufemi who made the move and made it stick. That hooligan livery car definitely came off second best there by running wide.
Yeah, and that's where you can see it, right? That tiny miscalculation of just the kind of pace you want to carry into the corner, and it just runs you wide, and you lose all your momentum, and you have to give up space. But again, as we focus here, Luke Lucchese actually making time on Nobrega in front. The gap is now down to 1.4, 1.5 seconds, and this might be the time to do it. Look, your second place, all you have to do is just make sure you do not lose your car, but there's so much to gain by trying to close the gap down in front and pushing yourself in this race. So if this, I think it's a back marker, if they can just get past that back marker, and then the only car in sight is Nobrega in first place, that will give Lucchese the kind of that extra level of motivation to keep pushing and get it right.
Couldn't agree more. At this point, like I said, my palms are starting to sweat a little bit for Tristan. That gap is starting to close. You've got to wonder, does, you know, 2 laps to go, he's maybe being a little bit conservative. You know, it looks like we just had a big run off there. Someone took a trip into the grass by the looks of the way those tires ended up. But Tristan's going to have to start potentially thinking, I might have to turn it up for a couple of laps. You know, he's gotten himself into a comfortable rhythm. He's gotten himself into a really, really, really happy little spot right now. But look what he's approaching, a back marker, or someone who is potentially going to need to honor the blue flags. Now, this is the dice roll when you come as you enter the final lap. Is this back marker going to actually do it? Is this gentleman a lap down, now wanting to finish his own race strong, potentially not get lapped again? How is he going to react? This is, again, the element of motorsport of staying consistent. And really, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, how does Tristan keep his nerve, really? Is he able to catch the back marker and get past him, or does he just hold his line and defend against Luke and hope for a basically make that BMW as wide as humanly possible?
Kind of emulate how big the M8 GTE was, right? But that's just another element of racing that you have to think about, because it's always worth remembering. Just because a back marker is going to give you space, it doesn't mean they're going to give you the optimal line. So final lap like this, my suggestion to Nobrega would be just hold position. Just hold position. Don't take the risk of trying to go for the overtake on the back marker. Hold position, finish like this, and you're a race winner.
Good stuff. Cannot share that sentiment enough. You know, as someone who does find myself very competitive, even for my skill set, even in these little iRacing races, when I find myself in this last lap in first, but the dude behind me is breathing down my neck, it's a paradigm shifting mentality as Tristan enters the last lap here for the final time on Zeppelin curve. It's not going to matter about that brake marker. Tristan is going to use him for a little bit of slip. Some flashy lights from the 2 men in first and second. An absolutely masterful drive again from Tristan and Nobrega from RDSA, running that Senna livery. Knowing Tristan like I know Tristan from my years in motorsport, big Senna fan, so probably a little bit of a homage from his side. Really, chuffed to bits, fantastic drive, really, for all of our drivers. What a spectacular showing. A little bit argy-bargy, just a little bit, but not enough for us to think, that got a bit out of hand. I think that was a great showing of some really, really, really good, just phenomenal driving.
What 100%. I thoroughly enjoyed that 25 laps, and honestly, I could have gone for another 25. These drivers were maintaining a really strong pace, but again, some of the moves we saw, the respect that was given, the space that was given, and like we spoke about, even the drivers that made mistakes rejoining on track, they were so considerate of other drivers. We saw a good display, and again, kudos to everyone that's going to finish this race, but fantastic drive to Nobrega down there in front, because maintaining that pace and doing what he did in that BMW M2 was amazing. And I will say, as a Senna fan myself, again, I didn't want to speak about it during the race, curse of the commentator, but now that the race is over, Senna Sempre, and I love that livery. So yes, seeing it on the top step of the podium, yes.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to just announce, unfortunately, we have had an FIA issue regarding a driver of ours on the grid. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize. We are not going to be showing the results publicly right now, as our team on the back end has to verify the removal of said driver and then update the points. So folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the results currently as we have them finished, and I'm going to have to unfortunately then exclude that driver's name. So if you would bear with me for a moment while I run through this list as we have it. First place, we have Tristan de Nobrega. Second, Luke Lucchese. Just as a reminder, Tristan is our winner of that Skyworth soundbar. It is an SS888 2.2 channel. If you'd like to go Google what Tristan just won, to the lamentation of his neighbors, it is a very cool piece of tech. So Tristan in first, Luke Lucchese in second place. In third place, we have Essie Esterhuis, Werner Swart following on from that, Noor Hendricks, Cameron de Bestos, Janneman Price following up in seventh position, Barry Kemp finishing in eighth, Ulufuemi finishing in ninth. Our 10th place finisher of our top 10, rounding that one off, is Jaco van der Lith. Following on to him, Jaco Grobler. Then we have Christopher Simmons, Nico Kellerman, Stephen Koenig coming in 14th, Rickers Hutting in that highly entertaining student driver livery that we got to see out there, ladies and gentlemen, followed then by Etienne Swart, Gabriel Melmed, Jakus Ava, Warren Opperman, Adrian Nell, and apparently me still registering on the system coming stone last. Right, someone has to come last, right, Tapilla?
Definitely, and I am going to make sure that I get myself a Skyworth soundbar, because yes, I need that sound quality in my life as well.
No, I'm not trying to punt it, because it's obviously the brand that helped us sponsor. I have a genuine love for music, and that really is just an awesome piece of tech, because that's when I got to demo it at the various shows that we do with Skyworth. It just sold me just on its own. But, Tapilla, what I'd like to do is ask you, would you like to talk to Tristan de Nobrega? Because I would, personally.
Let's have at it.
Could I see if we could get possibly someone from our awesome director back-end team to see if they can get Tristan into the commentary box with us? Because I have some questions. So I see he has, by the looks of things, it looks like he has left his channel that he was in with Luke Lucchese for the race, so I would expect we see him very, very shortly. But what I'd like to do is also find out from you, Tapilla. If you had to have chosen, right, a favorite of the three heats, I definitely think the final heat, as much as it was very argy-bargy, that definitely saw the best racing in terms of the guys actually fighting each other.
Agree with you, and I think what's so crucial to that is because these drivers had two heats before the final. Once they got to heat 3, they've kind of learned the circuits, they've learned the limits of their car, and they've figured out where they can push and where they can hold position. So that's my heat of the day as well.
Yeah, likewise. And what I'd love to do is obviously see if anyone from the comments has some thoughts on any of the battles that they potentially have. I really do encourage any potential questions that you guys may have for Tristan. He's a very he'll want to share the knowledge and the wisdom that he has garnered from this race. But again, this is a gentleman who actually races a BMW in real life. So I think, Tapilla, we saw probably a little bit of an extension of just really where the skill set lies. And Tristan de Nobrega, congratulations on your win for the first BMW CS Racing challenge that we're going to be having with Motorsport South Africa. How does it feel, bud?
Yeah, thanks guys. Great to be a part of the first one, and yeah, it was good fun. First time driving this car in iRacing, and I must say it's a nice track and car combination. And yeah, the format was a little bit unknown to all of us going into it. Obviously, the heats had reverse grids, and then obviously in my heat I had a bit of an incident into turn one, which put me I think back to 9th position. So I had to try and claw my way back into that top 6. And then yeah, I don't know, it worked in my favor obviously because I finished 5th in my race, and then that gave me 3rd on the grid in the feature race. So yeah, super happy. Great racing, good fun. Obviously Luke, well done to finish on the podium, and also Camto, great driving from those guys, and yeah, I had good fun.
Awesome stuff, man. Really, really awesome to see the drive out there. We were having many discussions over your strategy and where you're going to try attempt a no stopper and stuff, and quite literally it was like your ears were burning. You came diving into the pit lane and completed your pit stop. But how was the pressure there towards the end, with Luke being right on top of you towards the end of the race?
So yeah, I was managing the gap, and I was kind of checking the whole time what laps he was doing, because lap times rather, because obviously he pitted early to try and clear the traffic. So I knew it would be close. I didn't expect it to be that close. And then yeah, I came out the pits and I felt my tires were really just finished. So I just really coasted home. Obviously tried to work through the last bit of traffic, and then yeah, I knew if Luke even got up to me, we'd still be okay. I think managed to have enough tires to maybe have a last lap battle, but yeah, we got away with it, and nice close finish.
Good, very, very well done, Tristan. Fantastic drive, man. And you are obviously the winner of the soundbar provided by Skyworth South Africa. So I'll obviously then get in touch with you. We'll organize the social media thing, as we're seeing some of the replay highlights at the moment. Some real Tokyo drift attempting stuff, not quite working out for the drivers. But yeah, Tristan, again, man, spectacular drive, really well done. Couldn't congratulate you enough. And yeah, hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more of this iRacing in the future.
That would be fantastic. Looking forward to any leagues or competitions that we have in the future, and hopefully we get some more guys in, more competition, and hopefully we can grow it. That would be great.
That's the plan. Awesome. But Tristan, again, congratulations, man. I'm sure you're going to go and take a sit down now and have a breather, because that was a very long 25 lap race. It felt like it was quite a lengthy one. Pello and I even saying at one point, like, I could do another 25 personally, but that was quite a race.
Yeah, especially with these cars, the tires seem to fall off quite quickly, so they're very tail happy. So it keeps you locked in, and it's entertaining. So I hope it was good on the stream, and again, well done to Luke. And yeah, thanks guys.
Awesome stuff, Tristan. Thanks again for joining us in the commentary box for a quick post-race interview. I think this is about the time, to Pillow, we maybe start wrapping things up, as we're seeing some of the cars letting go on the stream at the moment. We had some big crashes this race, ladies and gentlemen, but what we also had was a spectacle of some of the top-notch driving that you would see here in South Africa in iRacing. And again, if this is something that interests you, if the M2 or racing in iRacing is of interest to you, please make your way over to Motorsport South Africa's website. Make sure you get that esports license, get into the Discord for stuff, and you will start to see a whole world of various racing activities opened up for you. And obviously, just a reminder to our stream giveaway for the Sparko Gaming voucher to a tune of 1,500 Rand. You guys can find that link up in the top of the description of the broadcast. To that, you just need to fill out the form, so we have your details. Obviously, no need to know who you are, but you do need to then also share it to a social of your choice, tagging Motorsport South Africa and MS Technic Sparko Gaming. The tags are there in the entry form, as well as including the hashtag as Africa Festival. To that, guys, Tapelo, man, it has been an absolute privilege. What I'd like to do maybe is, if you have a minute to discuss some of the stuff that's coming up, we've got the LNR console guys coming up in an hour and 10 minutes. And this is also going to be some really top-notch racing on the console side of things.
That's going to be interesting. As a guy who still games on console a lot, that's still just as tricky, so I know it's going to be interesting. So for the guys who are watching, stay behind, watch that, because I'm telling you, if this was a kind of an interest for you, all these races are just going to be just as good and just as fun with Richard in your ears.
No. Well, unfortunately, actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is me for the day. I was commentating on the leagues or the races that I put on personally, just providing a personal touch to make sure that everyone gets the message and understands the enthusiasm that Black Ribbon Simulations brings to it. But I mean, Tapela, honestly, honor and privilege, man. What an off midday I've had with you commenting on some racing. Absolutely cannot thank you enough.
No lies, my friend. It's been great. I haven't done this in a while, so coming back and having a great partner kind of next to me digitally, it's been fun, and I hope we can do it again.
I'm very much looking forward to it, I will tell you that much for free. And guys, from my side, that is the wrapping up of the Africa Festival M2 One Make Challenge. We are definitely going to be back for more. Please keep your eyes on the MSA socials. Have a look at Black Ribbon Simulations as well on socials. You will find everything there. And if you missed it earlier, there is some rallying for people if they're interested. Next though, ACC console. Good luck everyone. Have a great day. Cheers.